Hold on, I don't like that dinging. I'm gonna stop that immediately.
So, what did you think?
That's it. That's the Concert Crusade. We're back, and that's a wrap.
Where we talk about retro news, video games.
Video games. This is gonna be the first Concert Crusade podcast that is not edited outside of vocal processing. I'm doing it, dude. I don't give a fuck. It's gonna be awkward. There's gonna be some crosstalks. There's gonna be some weirdness. It already happened. It's gonna keep happening. I don't care because we're recording this at Tuesday at 6:40, and it's gotta go up in the morning. Who gives a shit?
Not me, I guess.
There's gonna be weird pauses and shit because you're on that side of the world and I'm over here.
I think we're both on the same side of the world, technically.
Whoa. Let's not peel the curtain back, all right? This isn't Wizard of Oz, okay?
It's the Lizard of Oz.
Oh my God. I'm EJ Olson. This is Nick Durheim. This is the Concert Crusade. We missed last week, Nick, because you are in a little bit of a relocation process as you move into a new part of your home. And with that comes some serious internet issues because fuck Comcast and apparently fuck Verizon or whoever you have. Frontier?
Yeah.
Is that Verizon?
It was, but I don't know if it still is.
Oh my god!
I don't know. It's like Xfinity, Comcast. It's all just names.
It's all just names. This is true.
All just names.
That's accurate. So you didn't have internet last week, and here we are.
Yeah, you can go ahead and call me a basement dweller if you want to. I'm going to live up to that stereotype. All right. I'm a white gamer who lives in the basement and has a podcast.
Oh my god! Well, you've been practicing for this for years. You've been leading up to it. You know,
every day of my life has led me to this moment.
Practice how you play, is how my old man used to say. Back during
oh yeah, that was the
practice.
YMCA. Yeah.
There you go. So, Nick, we missed some stuff. And by stuff, I mean the day we released episode 55, the Pokemon Direct streamed. Right?
Yeah, that morning.
That was weeks ago. And so, in our limited time today, we're gonna chat about this briefly. You know, I've got some things to say about it.
I'm sure you do. Listeners will note that I've been trying to temper your expectations for probably over a year now.
You have been. Every time it gets brought up, you've been working on me. And you know what's funny is you tried to temper my expectations for Let's Go. Well, no. You kind of did the opposite. You were trying to keep me even. I was being super negative, and you tried to like, hey, it's okay. It's not going to be as bad as you think it is. It's going to be X, Y, and Z. And you know what? You proved me wrong. And here we are on the opposite side of things. And Let's Go kind of changed my mind about the new Pokemon, to be honest. After Let's Go, all my expectations went out the window for this game.
That was the wake-up call for you?
Yeah, I was like, whoa. Pokemon sucked.
It wasn't the every other game they've ever put out?
Well, you know, like X and Y came out, and I played through that, and I quite enjoyed it.
Yeah, that was a big leap. That was when they first started using like 3D models.
Right.
Like, in the overworld and in battle sequences, and it was such a cool new thing.
Yeah, and then, you know, the Hawaii Islands, whatever those are called, Sun and Moon. Yeah, those had a lot of issues, The pacing was awful. Somehow made these even more for babies. You know, just totally dumbed them down. I don't know how
it's always been for babies.
That's what I'm saying, though, is how you already took the easiest game franchise out there and you somehow made it even dumber. Blew me away. But I even enjoyed those. We played those with the boys. You and Trevor came down. We were all playing. He was trying to farm me what's that fish Pokemon? Oh, man.
I don't know. There's a lot of fish Pokemon.
Yeah.
I think that's like the most common type of Pokemon.
Oh, my
look at this. It's just a fish.
I just have that memory of him like just grinding, trying to breed me like the perfect. A Feebas. Is it a Feebas that turns into
Melodic? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the ticket. And
then
Ruby
Sapphire.
Yeah, just I don't know. So I have good memories of that, but I've been blown away by a Pokemon game until Let's Go. Honestly, I really like Let's Go. I was addicted, dude. I was like an obese man at a Taco Bell drive-thru. I've been that. That's what I was with Pokemon. Okay.
Yeah, that was a nice breath of fresh air. I think mostly because it was just so slimmed down and there just wasn't as much to do. So it was less of a grind fest, which is nice.
I wouldn't even say
I feel like this is going to be going back to the grindy kind of, this is going to be X and Y writ large.
Yeah, that's true. So one of the things that, okay, let's get into the trailer here before I get ahead of myself. The direct. I haven't watched the direct since like last Friday, so I'm gonna need my memory jarred a bit. I remember my reaction to certain things, but as far as a chronological a breakdown of events, you're gonna have to listen to a different podcast for that. My initial thought. So they come out and they showed the new starters before they showed gameplay, correct?
No, they showed gameplay first.
Did they?
And then they went into a pre-rendered sort of really slowly paced, here's all the starters kind of thing.
Okay. So what did you think, like graphically? What did you expect? And then what did you think after actually seeing it with your own two eyeballs?
Well, I don't know. I didn't really have a lot of expectations going in. I wasn't like one of those people that were like, it's going to be Breath of the Wild, but Pokemon. Like there was never a reality where that was going to be a thing.
No.
So when they showed it and it just kind of looks like Let's Go Pikachu, but with less tile-based kind of setup, I wasn't very surprised. I was like, okay, that makes total sense for them. They've got that pipeline figured out. Visually, it just looks like Let's Go, but with a more distinct color palette, I guess. A lot more like purples and like oranges going on, as opposed to like the just neon green grass everywhere that Let's Go was doing. Seems a little bit more interesting in that way. Character designs, I mean, it's just the Pokemon character models, but with different hair. And I don't know, they showed off some customization, which they've kind of always toyed with. It seems like they've been toying with that since X and Y, and it's always been so bare bones as to like not be interesting to me. Even in Let's Go Pikachu, it was kind of cool. You're like, oh, I got the Team Rocket outfit. I'm going to wear that until I get my next outfit. But it wasn't like the level of customization that you'd get from almost any other RPG.
Which Game Freak has always been behind the curve.
They're just really slow to do things.
Yeah, and they get comfortable. You know, when we're talking graphically, every single Pokemon game has been behind the curve graphically and has really underutilized the system until 3DS, and the 3DS really started to push in certain areas.
I would not necessarily agree with you on that, just because the systems that they were on were so limited as to reward the simplicity of them. Like Pokemon, the first gen of Pokemon on the Game Boy, you're talking about like the giant battle screen sprites, which looked good. Like they weren't fantastic, but even like in Crystal, when they added the little 2-frame jiggling animation, it was like, oh my God, that's so cool.
I think it's easy to remember being wowed by the graphics. And it's like, okay, I look at like Gen 3 and some of the things that implemented, like, oh, that's super cool. How with the elements and whatever little
you got
animations.
Reflections and puddles, dude.
Right.
That was
but
super
those games just don't look very nice. And you can versus some of their
on the
contemporaries.
Game Boy Advance, they look fine.
I mean, they look like a retro style game. But at the time, that was even one of the things people were complaining about. You can go back and read reviews for the Gen 3. It was like, why does this game look underwhelming after years?
Well, I mean, people complain that Paper Mario didn't have voice acting. Like, what would they say in a Paper Mario game? It doesn't matter what they think back then or what they even think now. It's about what you think. Like, I thought those games looked good. And the sprite art in those games are timeless because they're sprite art.
Well, that's the one bonus to making your game look like that is... even if it does look like shit, it'll never age as poorly as something on the PS1 or, you know. Shit, dude, even I look at games that came out, you know, in 2010 on the Xbox 360, and I'm like, I can't believe we consumed this. This is wretched.
You were looking out on a CRT TV because you hadn't upgraded to your flat screen for Skyrim yet.
That's true. I was living in the fucking dark ages. I was like 2011. Oof.
Dude, most people were. Just people on the bleeding edge that were paying $2,000 for a 32-inch LCD TV.
Yeah. So as far as this Pokemon trailer goes, the gameplay, I agree with you. I really like the color palette. It looked like the world itself seemed very, like it felt like a sunset on like a late summer eve. Like it had good vibes in that respect.
Mm-hmm.
And so stepping back and looking at it, I'm like, oh, okay. This is all right. And you start to kind of look at things and I started picking out some details, and I'm like, this just looks like an up-res 3DS game. It's kind of jaggy and weird, and I shouldn't have expected more, but I was a little disappointed by that. But the thing that really stood out to me, especially after playing Let's Go, and bear in mind, I'm aware that this may be just because it's a trailer and they're trying to avoid spoilery things, maybe, but it feels like such an empty world. There's nothing here.
Yeah, I think, like you said, I think that is intentional. I think they're waiting to go into deeper dives with like new mechanics until later, because everything they showed is sort of like the staples of the series. You saw a random encounter, you saw a trainer battle, you saw the character approaching a gym, you saw literally like the checklist of this is what a Pokemon game is.
Right.
So we didn't really see anything new. We saw like the same tired, like minimal battle animations even. So, and of course the first Pokemon you even see on screen is a freaking Pikachu. So they're just like playing it very safe. They're just showing the bare minimum of being like, hey, there's a new game coming out. Here's what it looks like. But they haven't gone in depth with like mechanics or anything yet.
Right.
I did like that they sort of opened with like distinct areas. They're trying to, I don't know if they succeeded, but they're trying to, it seems, make this a visually distinct game from prior games. Because if you look at Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, those games don't have like a visual identity besides being, hey, this is like a pretty version of what like the tile-based Pokemon Red and Blue on Game Boy were. Like there wasn't really anything that was like the style behind it. It was just sort of safe, very like minimal. Whereas this, you're seeing like the buildings. It's an industrial age. You got that British vibe, or I thought it was just like a European vibe. It looked kind of Germanic to me, but
sure,
it's like shaped like Great Britain, so it makes sense that they're going for that. And like even the female character wearing the little tam, like the Scottish hat, it's kind of cool, but it's very safe and it's not making a big statement, which I would never expect Pokemon to do.
Sure.
But it's sort of doing it in the Pokemon way, I think.
You know, the Galar region is actually kind of interesting. It looks like it's a really diverse area, despite it, you know, being based on Great Britain, or it's like you're gonna be cold and you're gonna be wet. But looking at the map, obviously very long, and you can kind of split that by region there, and it's like, okay, you're gonna get a little bit of everything, which you get in every game for the most part.
When I first looked at it, I was not very wowed. I was just like, oh great, we're gonna start at the bottom, we'll end at the top. It's straight line the game. It's like Final Fantasy 13, but the more I've looked at it, the more you kind of see because they uploaded like a high res image of the map, so you can see where the paths kind of lead you, and you see where the train tracks go, and that's probably going to be your travel system later in the game. But it's a little bit more winding. It's a little bit more weaving. You're not going just up.
To be fair, every Pokemon game is straight line the game.
Well, no, you spiral. You go in a clockwise direction in Red and Blue.
I don't know.
It makes it seem a little bit more interconnected. Like when you finally unlock, Saffron in Red and Blue, and you finally get that crossroads, like that's cool.
That's the only game that really does that, where it's like you can even go to different towns out of order depending on what you do, and do to different gyms out of order. I think there's 3 gyms you can do in any order.
Yeah, it's more just like the walking around and the talking to people, the RPG kind of stuff, which has always been kind of light, but the game is not always just go to the next gym and talk to people. It's honestly, I would like if they did more like traditional RPG things where you had side quests, which has always been kind of a minimal thing in the Pokemon games. But I don't know. Maybe they'll do that in this one, but they won't. Well,
obviously, completely different company developing these games, the Pokemon company versus Nintendo proper. But I look at like, I feel like every game that comes out, I wish they would lean more into the RPG elements. Zelda came out, and they kind of would scratch the surface with some of those things, but then it would just sort of fall flat. Like the side quests in Zelda were awful, and it was like there was no purpose to it. And because the way I always thought they should have implemented like a proper level system, and so that it incentivized side quests and stuff. So I don't know. All that to say, I don't trust this company to do anything other than what they've done for 20 years.
Well, to be fair, what would you get from a Pokemon side quest? Like the best you would do in the older games is you talk to a person and they give you a quick claw or something, like a hold item. What are your rewards? Do you just get Poké Dollars? Like you're never running out of Poké Dollars because the game's so easy.
Right.
It's like, how do you incentivize even doing the things?
It would be cool, because the whole point of a Pokemon game is to collect all the Pokemon, right? That's point A, and point B is to beat the Pokemon League, right? And they kind of go hand in hand. So it'd be cool if they did a whole string of side quests that leans into the collector's aspect, and they've done little things like that before, but it's like, you want to collect all the Pokemon instead of having to like wonder trade with strangers. Like, here's some cool quests with a little bit of a cool story and an actual prize at the end of that, you know?
Yeah, but like, what are you doing on the side quest?
You're doing what you do in all Pokemon games.
Go catch me 5 Pidgeys.
Well, no, okay, not so, you know.
Bring me a Rattata that knows Quick Attack and Leer.
No, none of that kind of crap. When you think, so you're thinking real JRPG side quests. Pointless bullshit.
Like what would you do with Pokemon? You just talk to this person, then talk to that person. Fight me, and I'll give you a shiny Meowth.
Dude, there you go. Oh, yeah, it'd be more Pokemon, but...
I just feel like Pokemon's such a unstable kind of puzzle of different elements, and that if you mess with one element too much, the whole thing kind of falls apart, which is why they've kind of stuck to this formula for 20 years. And it doesn't help that they don't have to change it. It keeps selling.
Right. Well, I just realized we haven't said the name of these games. Pokemon Gun and Trebuchet.
Yep.
Super can't wait. Gonna be really interesting. Oh, man. I tell you what, dude. I was in the middle of a Pokemon Trebuchet meme, and I checked Reddit, and it, like, someone had posted like 5 minutes earlier. Like, I had just missed it. And I was like, damn it. That would have been some free karma, dude, if I would have just gotten off my ass a little sooner. But Pokemon Sword and Shield. What if you do
one with Darth Maul and then one of the shield droids, you know what I'm talking about?
Oh.
Prequel memes?
Little destroyers, dude. Nick.
That's not bad. Or would it be Grievous? Grievous is a little bit more. He's got more swords.
He's got a lot of swords.
He's got the 4 Swords adventure.
Oh my goodness. Nailed it. Anyway, Pokemon Sword and Shield. Dude, I know they've run out of elements, right? We started doing letters. We started doing lunar.
So they've all kind of tied in. Well, not all, but like the last few have like tied in. Like Black and White was about morality. X and Y was about genetically manipulating Pokemon. Sun and Moon were about these like solar legendaries and like the day-night cycle in Alola. So I feel like Sword and Shield is not just a throwaway, here are 2 different things.
Pokemon
I feel like it's got
War.
Yeah, I'm wondering if it has something to do with that. If it's got like this is a region where the different locations are not exactly at peace with each other or haven't always been. And what does that mean for the legendaries? What does that mean for the story? Because, I mean, that we care so much about, but like, I don't know, that's like part of the game, right?
I will be really excited if they do a Pokemon War. And actually,
if they
if they explore it in an interesting way, like that's cool. Sword and Shield, like that would, that could be kind of cool. And you're right, the last couple names have tied in, and that's more than we can say for Red and Blue, whatever. But
yeah, the first few, and I don't think even, I think they kind of tried to start doing that with Diamond and Pearl, but that was more just like the dichotomy, which they sort of played with in, I don't know, every other game. It's sort of like the 2. Well, actually, Golden Sun has kind of started it. Or Gold and Silver. I said Golden Sun.
You did say
what am I thinking about? Gold and Silver with Ho-Oh and Lugia. They kind of had these like this dichotomous relationship.
Yeah.
And then they really played into that way more heavily with Ruby and Sapphire, where you had Team Aqua or Team Magma, and it's expanding the sea or expanding the earth, all that kind of thing. So that's sort of been like a theme that they struck on. They thought, this is what we want to do for future generations.
Sure.
So I'm wondering what Sword and Shield, what that means for this region, what that means for the legendaries. Everyone's like, why would you pick Shield? Like, Sword is clearly cooler. Who wants a shield when you can have a sword? Am I right? But it just depends on the covers. Everyone's like, Black and White. Black's gonna be so much cooler. But then you got the White legendary with Black, and you got the Black legendary with White, and the Black legendary look cooler. So who the fuck knows?
Damn. Pokemon, they're pulling a fast one on us. I'm all about, dude, Civil War. I want to see some Pokemon blood. Not to get creepy on you or anything.
Yeah. I want your Pokemon to die in this game.
Oh my god, they died in the first game. Well, not.
It's like breaking breakable weapons in Zelda.
Dude, remember that time we?
It's like a Nuzlocke, but just built in.
That would actually be kind of a cool feature. Is actually, giving us a Nuzlocke proper. Remember?
Oh man, it's a cool feature. I can't wait for them to actually do that.
Got me. You got me. Pokemon starters, man. They after this trailer, they showed us a little pre-rendered, little breakdown, of our 3 new dudes. Okay, all right. I don't yet know how to feel, and didn't at the time, but after pulling up a list
of all the previous starters, I think this might be like the least weak trio of starters. It seems like every generation's had like, this is clearly the best one, this is clearly the worst one. You got Chikorita in Gen 2, which I chose out of pity, stuff like that.
I chose out of pity.
Or like Poplio last season, like that stupid clown seal. Like it's bad, terrible. Some of them are just bad.
So last time you had the owl who was really cool, but then his evolution line wasn't very good.
Dude, Decidueye was so tight. I love
his design. I hated his design, dude.
And I like that his second evolution was like a cool little emo boy, and his animation was literally flipping his little feather bang. That was so funny.
Oh my goodness.
It brought me back to high school, okay?
Yeah, honestly, like the starters, the last 2 generations were awful. The last 3 generations,
the last really good generation of starters, I think, was that Black and White with Piplup?
Yes, Piplup and Chimchar.
Chimchar.
That was Gen
and Snivy
4.
Okay, that was Diamond Pearl.
Sorry, Piplup Snivy was Gen 5. And then Piplup, Chimchar, and Turtwig was Gen 4.
Okay.
I believe that's the names.
So Gen 5 was Oshawott?
Oshawott, yes.
Dude, I like Oshawott too, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, he's fine. And then Little Pig, man.
And I don't really like Infernape just because it's like, oh great, another firefighting that's become a meme. But I think his design's like pretty cool, and Chimchar was like, okay.
I quite liked Infernape. It was always like Infernape to me delivered on the promise of Torchic's evolution line, which was awful, but you had to choose it because it was the best one.
Yeah, what's up with Blaziken's weird hair?
Yeah, it just didn't. Blaziken, I just not for me, man. So I liked Infernape quite a bit, but yeah, and then I went to Delphox route and XY, but that was kind of who's he turn into? Help me out here.
What, Delphox?
Right, is that that's the correct name, right?
Yeah, I thought that was the last evolution. Clearly, we have infinite Pokemon knowledge.
Yeah. Well, anyway, that's and then Litten and into
that was what Fennekin or something like that.
Yeah. So these new ones like,
and it's just the first. That's the first stage, so we don't know what their final evolutions look like.
Sure,
what that's gonna kind of pan out because that. They can wildly be different. I mean, Poplio was like fine, but then you saw the final evolution. You're like, that's not fine. I'm not going to choose the water starter. That's a nightmare creature.
So we've got Scorbunny, we've got Sobble, and then the green monkey guy whose name
Grookey.
Okay. Yeah, I mean these look
Grookey gang.
Oh wow, Nick, these still look like to me like. A fan was like, I'm going to design the next generation of Pokemon starters. And it's like, oh, okay, that's a Pokemon.
Is that that's almost a compliment, really? Because like the fan designed Pokemon are always cooler than the actual ones.
No, see, I never get that sense. I don't know. The Pokemon are so hit and miss. Like half the Pokemon in a generation will be like, that's either adorable or that's like legit. And these are like, okay, they're like adorable by default because they're little chibi dudes, but like they're not. They don't stand out to me. They're whatever. And I fear this firefighting that Scorbunny is inevitably going to be. Like, why?
It doesn't help that Scorbunny kind of looks like a Sonic character.
Yeah.
Just the way the arms and legs are proportioned, it's very, very much of that ilk. I am a big fan of Sobble. I love Pokemon that have a very apparent like personality that isn't just like, I'm adventurous. That's why I like Snivy. Snivy's cool because he's just like, fuck you, I'm way better than you. Right. He's got that upturned nose and everything. But Sobble's just a depressed little water lizard, and I can get behind that. And Grookey, I feel like he could turn into a really cool, like, imposing grass ape, which seems like it could be a fun time. Scorbunny, I don't envision a cool end for Scorbunny. Just like I didn't really envision a cool end for Fennekin. and it turned out to be like this weird witch fox lady, which I was like, I mean, it fits the theme and it's fine, but it's not for me.
Did you see the Powerpuff Girl comparison to the new starters?
I did see that. I think you sent that to me, actually.
Very interesting. Kind of little on the nose there in those designs. Seeing the fan art spawn from that's been pretty fun. Was pretty fun for a minute anyway.
My favorite iteration of fan art was the one where it was like the first stage, grass, water, fire. Then the second stage was grass fighting, water fighting, fire fighting, and the third stage was just fighting.
Right. Well, I don't know. I'm nowhere different than I was going into this direct. I am okay. That's Pokemon. I'll play it. I probably won't be happy about it, and I'll wait for Pokemon Let's Go, Togepi, and Meryl next Christmas.
Yeah, I guess I didn't. Like I said, I didn't have any expectations. I had hopes. Obviously, I was hoping that we would keep with the visible Pokemon on the overworld. I thought that was a really, really welcome addition from Let's Go, and I was hoping for camera control, but both my hopes were dashed.
So, sorry, I'm looking at a list right now of a couple of, seeing if there are any other details we missed here. There was a tweet that was sent out by Nintendo earlier this week that said, "Are you ready to take on new adventures against Gym Masters?"
Yeah,
and then they deleted
that tweet.
Which was interesting. So, I mean, give me your speculation. Gym Masters versus Gym Leaders. Is this just a branding thing, or could this be pointing towards altered mechanics or a different gym system?
I mean, I'm not creative enough to imagine what a different gym system would even entail or what I would want from that. But it sounds like if they're changing the name, then that would mean that they're changing systems at play also.
Sure.
And I wonder if it would just be as simple as you're going to be able to like challenge them, and they'll have different setups, or I don't know, like maybe the leaders will change after you beat them and you have to fight someone different, that kind of thing. I don't know.
I wonder if they're gonna. I mean, I don't think there's a way to do this that not that Game Freak could possibly figure out, but let us do the gym leaders in any order, and depending on when you fight them, they have different Pokemon, different levels. And that could be an interesting dynamic.
Right. I think that is not likely based on the linearity of the map, how it's set up.
Yeah.
Like if it was a blob with less distinct roads, then I think that would be much more feasible, and they would just scale up with you. I think that'd be level scaling always kind of sucks in RPGs, but in a Pokemon RPG, I think that would be fine.
Yeah. I mean, and that'd be interesting. Like it gives you more of an incentive to explore the world.
And also more of an incentive to actually engage with the systems of, water beats fire, fire beats grass, grass beats water.
Right.
And because if everything was like equally hard, but you had to actually strategically place your Pokemon, then that would be better than just brute forcing everything with your OP starter.
Exactly.
Like every generation's kind of felt like, especially Let's Go.
I hate having to create my own motivation with these games. Like I just want to play the way they're intended to be played and have a good time with that. I don't want to have to alter how a game works in order to try and have fun with it. It's just, but yeah, that's Pokemon. Yay. We'll probably get more information the next month. Well, no, it's only March. You figure these games are what? Probably November releases? Late October, or early November kind of thing.
We'll probably hear more at the end of May, and then we'll get a little bit more at E3, because Nintendo likes to do like a minor reveal.
Yeah. Well, let's move on here to some interesting news from today that you just sent me. I mean, I think they dropped this 2 hours ago.
It was very, very much today.
Here's something that did not make me turn my head initially, because it's something that you figured should have happened so long ago that it probably already did. And
it's been rumored for ages.
And that's that Halo is coming to PC.
Yeah, the whole Master Chief Collection.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't call it the Master Chief Collection, even though they are, because they're rolling them out one at a time for individual purchase.
Is it individual purchase, or is it that each game will just be playable as they release them. I'm uncertain about that. The messaging has been kind of tough because they're doing like kind of weird stuff with it. Like you're able to buy it through Steam, which is weird, but you need a Microsoft login. So you need to have like an Xbox Live or a Hotmail account or whatever.
It's so interesting to me. So I imagine it'd be difficult to not put your games on Steam, being as that it's the most ubiquitous platform, and by not launching it on Steam, either A, you're being paid a shit ton by Epic, or B, you're just losing a fuck ton of money by keeping it exclusive to your own platform. So it makes sense that they would do this, but it also seems like if you were going to funnel people to your ecosystem, doing it with like the biggest shooter of all time would probably be, not biggest, but most beloved, I would argue. Wouldn't that be the game you would use to force people to come to the Xbox Live Marketplace? Like, it seems weird that this just comes out of nowhere and they're like, and Steam.
Well, I don't know. I would speculate that it's because they don't have the Xbox Live Marketplace working yet. There's been like some, not rumors, but like data mines of people that are in these like little programs that are beta testing, pretty much launching Xbox 3 or Xbox One native games on PC. So I feel like there's going to be a time in the future where they kill the Windows Store and replace it with an Xbox Live, because they've been rebranding everything to just be Xbox. Like their games division is just Xbox Games Division now, whatever. So I feel like they're trying to unify that platform so that Windows 10 will be just synonymous with Xbox and vice versa.
Right.
So that isn't ready yet, clearly. So they're just putting it on Steam as like hey, we totally fucked this up and it's been way too long and we probably wanted to do this years ago, but it just hasn't been ready. Things have just been, catastrophic with this development, that we're just going to put it on Steam as a make good. They could just release it on the Windows Store. Everyone who's playing on Steam has a Windows computer anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Right. Yeah,
they're just trying to make good.
It just seems strange. And if they have wanted this the whole time, I don't know, it just seems, obviously, I mean, it's really late. This game came out 6 years ago. The collection came out in
2014, I think.
14? Okay. So it came out a half decade ago, and these were, remakes of half-assed remakes of very old games. So is there really that big of a market for this? Are people gonna play this?
I think people are showing excitement, and even if they're not gonna play it, it's just a good look.
Yeah, fair.
It's a PR move as much as it is hey, we're trying to sell this game.
Okay.
And Xbox has been just trying to get as much good PR as possible before their next hardware and streaming service drops. They're trying to make people think Xbox is cool, so that, I mean, they've already lost. They're not going to come back. They're not going to sell Xbox Ones at the 80 million mark or whatever the PS4 is at. So this is already a lost cause. They're just trying to garner goodwill.
Man, I just, seeing certain things, obviously with the release of the Xbox One X and the PS4 Pro and the rumors about the next generation, I've sort of oscillated between wanting these platforms to like have different tiers that you can buy into, but then it's like, well, it just becomes a PC thing, and it's like, part of me also just wants there to be one device from each manufacturer with all of their own exclusive games, so we get that competition that'll breed better developers and better games. I don't want the Xbox platform to just be Xbox and have all these different versions and fragment the ecosystem. It's like, I want it to be PS5 and Xbox 2, or whatever the fuck they're going to call it. And I want those two to go head to head. I don't want this weird iterative, out of sync cycle. It just doesn't interest me, I don't think. Like I said, I've waffled on it, but I just want a PS5 to come out that it doubles the power of the PS4. It should be backwards compatible to PS4, but quit putting games on the PS4. Like, force people to upgrade. Usher in this new era. Don't fragment things and cause developers to have to cater to two different markets and different power levels. Just usher in the new era, pull an Apple, full steam ahead, get all your developers on board, and that is what is going to expedite the evolution of video games.
Yeah, it's just tough, especially since the way consumers have been buying electronics for the past 20 years specifically has been wildly different than the first 20 years of video games.
Right.
So it makes nothing but sense that they would try and copy the cell phone model of being more iterative, smaller jumps just on a shorter time frame. And, it hasn't been quite yearly or anything. It's what the Xbox One X came out 4 years after the Xbox One. The PS4 Pro came out 3 years after the PS4.
Yeah.
So it's not quite oh man, I just bought this thing and now it's crap. But also it's just sort of, these are just going to be stopgaps until the streaming future becomes a reality, whether that's through 5G or whatever. I have no idea. I haven't done zero reading into that, but it makes sense that wireless would be the future for internet and how it's dished out to people, because less infrastructure has to be put down in the real world, So that's going to be how we play games in the future.
I think that's a very distant future based on, if you're looking globally, our ecosystem is far, far behind where it needs to be to.
It's a distant future, but it's an inevitable future, and whoever has the first step, it's going to be a cascading effect, and they're just going to be the de facto winners if they can establish that market earlier. It's like the iPhone. Like, sure, there were smartphones before that, but they became the name thing. And sure, Android phones are more, like, there are more people with Android phones in the world, but it's all splintered apart. So iPhones are still a huge phone brand. And I think Microsoft just wants to be the Google of streaming games. Like, you don't Bing something, you're not using Ask Jeeves anymore. Like, there are certain things, there are services that it's the de facto winner. Sure, you can use Friendster, but everyone's got a Facebook. It's just like there's one catastrophic or astronomical leader, and then everyone else is just sort of trying to play catch up.
Sure.
Playing in the mud with the peasants. PS Now wanted to be that, but they had a bad start, and now they have just that looming over them. So Microsoft's going to try and be like, hey, we have the best service. Google's going to try that. They're going to be talking about that kind of stuff at GDC. Amazon's playing with that kind of stuff as well.
Great.
Which it makes sense because they are the biggest internet companies. Like, they have the servers. Amazon Web Services are everywhere. Azure servers from Microsoft are everywhere. Google has a lot of stuff, so it's going to be those three companies that are kind of duking it out. Whereas PS4 is like, hey, we've got our prestige games. And Nintendo's like, hey, check it out, buy VR Labo.
Oh, that's what we should talk about. I skimmed over that in the group chat. Like I said, I've been almost completely offline it's been 2 weeks playing catch up from all my my missed time. But Labo VR, that was a real thing?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It's going to come out in April, I think.
Oh my God. I thought that was a Photoshop mockup. Because we talked about this in the podcast a while back about the possibility of a Switch VR and what a disaster that would be. And those patents came out.
We both soundly laughed out of the room.
And here we are.
Here, buy our VR kit, stare at the bird's ass.
Oh man, I'm not educated enough to talk about this. I can't believe this. That screen, again, to again use a phrase that I stole from you. That's wretched, dude.
Yeah, it is egregious imagining
it's
VR
awful.
At that resolution. It's not even just the resolution; it's the PPI.
Oh yeah. Oh man, it's like if you took a 3DS and you're playing Minecraft and you went like this to it. It's gonna be fucking terrible. It's gonna be beyond terrible.
I wonder what they're gonna do with it, because if they went for like a more retro kind of vibe, if they use the headset more like a 3D viewer as opposed to a VR with the actual tracking, I think that would be fine. But it seems like with the way they have everything set up, that they have at least one controller mounted on the cardboard at all times so that they has that motion tracking. But I don't know.
I mean, if Nintendo does one of two things generally. They either take something that everyone else is doing and they do it in a totally innovative and interesting way that everyone says, oh shit, I didn't think about that. Or they take it and they completely butcher it, and then in 3 years they will treat it like it never, ever, ever happened. So, and there's no real middle ground. It's just like either they do something totally interesting and unique that no one's doing, or they completely bungle it. So who knows? Maybe we'll be pleasantly surprised by their use of this, and we'll look at it and say, "Oh, never thought about that." They're not. It's
also like a zero risk kind of venture. I don't know who was pitching this, who was like excited about this, who wanted to do this, but if it turns out cool, it doesn't matter because I don't think either of us are going to be getting it.
No,
so it's kind of a moot point.
It's like out of touch Japanese company. Like no one's asking for a fucking cardboard VR headset.
Yeah, well,
Google Cardboard was 5 years ago. You know, like a little late to the party, guys.
Yeah, no one was asking for that either.
Hey,
I don't think anyone was like really asking for VR.
No, well,
dude, everyone had one because they gave it away.
But it was an interesting thing. There was a little zeitgeist about this. I mean, everybody was talking about it. I remember walking into work. I was working at the paper, and the whole newsroom was fawning over the Google Cardboard, and it was totally stupid. It was a kitschy little thing that you fucked with for 3 minutes, but it was a thing.
I just don't want to fall into the trap of heavily criticizing a thing that isn't for me, and I would have zero interest in getting, even if it was good.
Sure.
So it's weird. It definitely is weird. I would have never guessed they would have actually tried doing it because it seems like a bad idea, I guess.
A bad idea?
It's like Labo is for kids, but would Nintendo be like, yeah, dude, stick this VR goggle headset on your face and burn your retinas? Because we don't know the long-term effects of this, and we're so gun-shy that we'll tell you to take a break from playing Wii for 30 minutes, you know?
Right. Oh, man. I was watching who was it? Were they talking about the Switch? They were talking about, It was a podcast. They were talking about their Switch launch memories, because the Switch just turned 2. And which blows me away. It's been 2 full years since. That seems like yesterday that we were.
It also seems like 100 years ago.
I don't feel that yet. It literally seems like, dude, I just drove up. I lost my wallet. Remember that whole debacle? I lost my wallet and I needed my wallet to pick it up with my ID and shit.
Yeah, you put it in the garbage can or whatever.
Yeah. And then we went back and I mean, that was fucking 2 full years ago. That's insane. But they were talking about their launch memories, and they started talking about the Wii. And I got really nostalgic for the Wii, which is a system I played Smash Bros. On and GameCube games. You know? Like, I didn't play hardly any Wii games. Wii Sports, played a ton of that, but...
Yeah, it was also, like, what people were saying around it.
Well, I mean...
Because your memories aren't always just your memories. You kind of osmosis absorb other people's love of a thing or hatred of a thing based on who you're interacting with and, like, what you're reading and all that kind of stuff. So I've got a lot of really strong memories from the Wii launch and also from Smash Brawl, even though I didn't really play it until a little bit after it came out. But I just remember, being on message boards, talking with like, what are they going to reveal next? Refreshing the dojo every night, all that kind of stuff. But I didn't play it at launch. So I've got these like strong launch memories without actually interacting with it. So memories are weird in that way.
So I don't have any launch memories, but I just was reflecting on sort of the whole lifespan of the thing. I remember when my parents decided to get one, and then, which was a whole hilarious thing in and of itself. But I mean, everything from just the first time you put on the little deal and wave the wand around, you play Wii Sports, and totally silly. But I miss the atmosphere of the Wii. The startup sound, the menu jingles, the eShop music, which is a total meme, but it's seriously great. It's like everything about that. It was such an interesting little package, even though it was an awful gaming console.
Yeah, it was especially like a new thing. Like obviously the 360 did it the year before, but game consoles for the large part was you turn the game console on and put the game in, and if you didn't have a game inside, there was nothing to do.
Right.
And the Wii was like a lot of people's first sort of, hey, I turned the thing on and I can make a me. I can go to the weather channel. I can, vote in this weird poll. There's like stuff to do with the console if you didn't just have a game inside of it.
Right. What an interesting time. I don't know. The whole, so like I was not really playing games. Like the most games I was experiencing at the time was like playing PS2 games. I would go to GameStop or CD Game Exchange on a whim, and buy just like, what can I buy for $15? I wasn't really playing games. I kind of.
Yeah, we've talked about this before, but that was like both of our kind of blind spots are vacations from gaming and paying attention to games. Like the last console I had before I bought my 360 in 2012 was the PS2 Slim, which I think came out in like 04, 05.
Right.
So it had been like a 7-year gap of me not really paying attention to what was new, what was coming out.
That's the thing.
So a lot of my Wii interactions was playing backwards compatible games on the Wii U. That's how I played Mario Galaxy 1 and 2. It's how I played the remasters of Twilight Princess, but like a lot of my Wii memories are just like vicarious / me looking backward just like a few years ago.
Right. Yeah, it was a weird time because I never really stopped playing games. Like all through middle and high school, I always had a handheld and I played Pokemon games. You know, I always had the PlayStation. My brother and I would play, I don't know, from fucking Cabela's to like Dragon Ball fighting games. You know, I remember my junior year of high school, I played Spider-Man 2 on the PS2 and like replayed Spyro 2, shit like that. So I always played games, but yeah, it was that time where I just wasn't paying attention. I didn't have the money to buy a new console. And so yeah, that it was like, it feels like a lot longer than it was looking back because I was collecting retro games up through like 8th grade.
Right.
And then, oh crap, man. And then I guess, yeah, by my senior year, I bought, you know, an Xbox or whatever. But it just, and the Wii just fit perfectly into that weird little chunk of time, you know?
Yeah.
And
it really exemplified the sort of disparity between what you and I were, which were like pseudo lapsed gamers. Like we were still playing games, but we weren't interacting with the market that much.
Right.
And then like the hardcore following. And I feel like, this is anecdotal, I don't know, but I feel like there's more lapsed or pseudo lapsed gamers than there are people actively paying attention, actively seeking out news, actively seeking out what the hot new thing is, and spending more money than they're actually interacting with the games. That's me. What's up? But the Wii was that console. That was the, hey, you haven't played video games in a long time. Here's a thing that you can get into.
Yeah.
And it was a genius marketing move, and Nintendo's been very good at capturing that market with like, just especially with like getting kids into games with their handhelds, because it seems like that is a untapped market from both Sony and Microsoft.
Yeah.
Which is weird. That's so weird to me, but at this point it's hard because everyone's got a phone, but Nintendo somehow managed to mature their handheld to be a console also. And I think that if they had done a traditional DS line or a Game Boy, you know, that it would have been a failure unless it was like super cheap. And at that point, who's developing for that? Like it's just a lot of different aspects at play.
Yeah, I think the Switch is the only logical evolution. You know, given where they were and where we're at now with mobile gaming and stuff. And so, you know,
leave it to Nintendo to be logical, right?
Isn't that, well, I didn't, you know, it's an evolution. Sometimes you don't have a choice in the matter. It just happens, you know?
Press B.
It just happened. Right. Topical. I like that.
Yeah, you like that. Evolution.
We got a few minutes left here before we got to wrap it up. I mean, is there anything new you've been playing since we last kind of chatted?
I'm not sure if I told you, but I did start up Link's Awakening.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I am right before the 4th dungeon. Just got past the animal village.
Don't know
got
what
the ocarina.
Means.
Learned the Windfish ballad from Marin.
Okay.
We went on our cute little walk. A photographer took our photo in some locations, like me falling down a well. Got that photo taken. Went to the romantic lookout spot, our secret spot. Got that photo taken.
I have really vague memories.
What a fantastic game, dude! Link's Awakening. There's a reason why people put it at the top of like top 25 Game Boy games of all time. Like that, it clearly is the best Game Boy game. It's so fantastic.
Okay, are you playing this OG hardware? You curled up under a lamp, or how are you doing this?
I've been playing it on an emulator because I've been letting Jordan borrow my Game Boy Advance, but it still feels good. I'm playing with my, my 8-bit DOE SNES gamepad, so I still have that nice D-pad that feels right.
Right.
But it's not the OG experience, no, because I don't really need the OG experience. I just wanted to refresh myself and sort of, I wanted to analyze and see, are my memories lying to me? Is this actually a good game? And it's a great game. it's the best Game Boy game. And I think I can still keep that context of this is not, going to be a Super Nintendo game. It's only got the 2 face buttons, so that really limits it. But they make it so simple, like the snappiness of opening up the menu and just pressing the button that you're going to equip your weapon onto and pop back out. And the dungeons are designed in a way where you're only really using 3 things at a time. And you sort of have to think, okay, I want to use my sword and my bombs right here, but I'm going to be using my feather in a little bit. Do I want to have the feather in the bombs or the feather in the sword? And sort of like that juggle is a very interesting sort of tension, and the way you interact with it is painless. So it'll be nice, definitely, for there to be more face buttons, and we've already seen in the trailer that you're going to be using at least 3 items in concert. Like you're not going to be swapping out as much. But even how they implemented it back in 1993 or whatever this game came out was just fabulous. And I played the DX version, obviously, because I had a Game Boy Color, and that was the game that was new when it came out. So after I got Pokemon, so makes sense that I'd be playing that one. So I'm playing that one again. That's the one that has the photographer wandering around, and it's got the color dungeon, and it's a little bit just minor upgrades.
Would you recommend that this is an experience I should have before the remake this year?
I'm not sure. That's tough for me because obviously I have the nostalgia. I know like the music is ingrained in my head. Like you could hear it and be like, oh, that's kind of cool. There's like a little bit of a remix of some OG Zelda themes, and oh, this kind of feels like Link to the Past, or whatever. Think of a top-down Zelda game that you've played. And this feels like it because those games are probably based off of it. Like we've talked about Oracle of Ages and Oracle of Seasons, and I'm pretty sure those are the exact same game engine that this game is built on. And Capcom was just like, hey, we'll take that and make our own dungeons, our own little story, and wander around that way. But Link's Awakening is the game that those games are just sort of aping. Those are the Majora's Mask to Link's Awakening, Ocarina of Time.
Gotcha.
And for me, this is my favorite 2D Zelda game, and might be my favorite Zelda game. I've talked about that clearly when we talked about our top 10 lists, but I've got the most love for this game. And it's not a perfect game by any means, but it's just so amazing.
I feel like I should experience it just because it's something that you really, really like. It's
yeah, but I don't know if since I don't know what they're changing or improving with the remaster, I don't know if playing the Game Boy version will frustrate you to be like a deterrent to play the remaster, or if you'll be like bored of playing the remaster because, oh, I just played this. Like, I don't know how true it is to the original, how much it's just a 1-to-1. Like, it seems very 1-to-1, like even with the 8-way walking and the level design. Like, they showed that weird pink dude jumping around, throwing the spiky, spinny thing as like he's a mini boss in the first dungeon. And I fought that guy, and I'm like, that is the fight. That is exactly the fight. You have to use the feather. You've got to jump over the thing and slash him, and the way he moves, like, it's just so accurate.
That geeks me out.
I don't know.
I like that.
It's awesome, but I don't know if you'll be. I don't want to play this game 2 times in a row. But it's also a pretty short game, so like you could really mash it out in like 12 hours, I think.
Oh, couldn't tell.
Depending on how completionist you want to be, and it's a little bit obtuse. It's a little bit it could be kind of difficult sometimes to be like, where am I going? What do I have to do before I get there? That can be a little bit tough. But if you want to just like go through with a guide, this is definitely a guide game where what you're experiencing and how you're playing it is different enough from like knowing where you're going that a guide isn't going to be like taking the fun out of it. Like if you played Pokemon with a guide, you're not having any fun. Like you're just playing what you're reading. But Zelda, it's a little bit different. I wouldn't look up how to solve puzzles. Like once you're in a dungeon, play the dungeon. And if you get stuck, then like consult the guide. But if you're like, where do I go next? Just look at a guide. That's fine.
Well, I had to play. I played 3/4 of Link to the Past. I had to use the guide the whole time. There's nothing about that game is easy to figure out. There's no context. You just walk until something happens, and then you hope that it ties into the last thing that happened because it's completely open and random.
Yeah, and it's hearkening back to a style of gameplay where it was very much user discovery. And if you don't have the time or the patience for that, if you're not having as much fun interacting with the mechanics, then you're not going to enjoy that process. Yeah. So I understand that. Like I thought Link's Awakening or Link to the Past was set up in a way where it was a little bit too big, but if you wandered around the map enough, you'd be like, oh, I see these rocks. I'm going to have to get the gauntlet to pick up those rocks. Like I've played a Zelda game before, so you know how you're interacting with the world. But if that's like your first Zelda game, then that could be either like really exciting or also really daunting. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
You've watched me play Link to the Past. and I got to the third dungeon. I had to fight that stupid worm, and I guess that was like the second or third dungeon. I don't remember. I hate that worm. That's the first boss in Link's Awakening. Hate that fucking worm.
Oh man,
he's not as hard in Link's Awakening as he is in Link to the Past, but he's the first boss. So you have 3 hearts unless you're a crazy person and somehow found 4 heart pieces. So that can be kind of tough.
I feel like even if I just watch something, I want the context going to the remake. And the remake, I really was delighted by the trailer, and that's a day one pickup for me, just because it's Zelda, and it looks, adorable with that whole new art style. So it's like, yeah, I'm gonna pick it up.
I'm just not sure. I'm not sure if you can manufacture that nostalgia or that sense of wonder.
No,
that I had.
No,
from playing. Like that's a game that I played on the car ride to and from camping trips, like on summer vacation, like that. You can't manufacture that kind of experience.
You can't. I will never experience or feel the way you feel about that game, no matter what I do.
So the best that you could do, I think, this is a game we've talked about this. I've tried to get you to do this. I tried to get you to do this with Golden Sun when we went to the beach last year, but I don't think you did it. But I want you to, on a vacation, on a weekend, just like go to a different place and play a game, because it changes the way you make those memories. Like, what I want you to do if you play Link's Awakening is I want you to like go to a coffee shop you've never been to and just plop down and play that game for 2 hours.
That's such an interesting way of looking at things. I'm tying it to something new and memorable.
Right.
Interesting, Nick. You're blowing my mind with these life hacks.
And I don't know. I'm totally spitballing. I'm just thinking the things and I'm saying them. But I think that would be a really cool way for you to experience that game. Like, I can look back on it. I can sit here on an emulator and remember how I felt and revisit those feelings while I'm interacting with the game without it being like, this is my first experience. Like, I think playing on an emulator is a huge bastardization of your original experience if it's your first experience. But if it's like refreshing your mind, like, oh man, I remember this, the sounds and everything, like it's sensory memory.
Yeah.
But for you're making those memories, so it has to be like a distinct thing, I think. And I know how you get when you're sitting on your couch, you got your TV going, you got your phone, you got so many distractions. But if you're in a new place and it's just a fresh thing, then you can just, I want you to do that for me.
Okay, all right.
If you're going to do it.
Listen. On the 28th, I'm driving to Rockaway for 3 nights and 4 days. All right? I'm going to do it. I'm going to take my Game Boy. I'm going to take Link's Awakening. And it's that little cottage we stayed in. You and...
with the loft?
With the loft. Who drove down with you? Trevor?
It was Trevor. Because that was the Splatfest weekend.
Yeah. Oh, the test fire.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm going to go stay at the little cottage. Just Sarah and I think my mom and Daniel are going to drive down for a day. So we'll just, cozy up by the fireplace, give it a go, give it a run through. I'll start it, Which, hey, I did dive into Golden Sun. I told you I did. We haven't talked about it, but I did it. I done did it.
We'll have to get Leaf on a pod one of these days soon.
I got to tell you, that game looks like crap. I was expecting a lot more. It's tough.
It has a very distinct visual style. You're talking about how Pokemon looks bad, but Golden Sun is much more like, this is what you remember SNES and PS1, like third tier RPGs looking like. It's got really cool design and like the cool like perspective shift, and doing that in a Game Boy Advance wasn't necessarily the best idea, but they did it. They
went for it. They committed.
Wasn't maybe advised, but they went whole hog on it. They did the thing where you're fighting enemies, and if you kill the enemy that you're targeting, your attack doesn't do anything. So they did it.
It's really interesting to see how, like, back in the day, they were striving to do the faux 3D thing to kind of make their games feel a little more, futuristic and new and dynamic. And now that we have the technology to do all that, we're trying to make our games look like the way the games that didn't try to be 3D back in the day looked. It's just like this.
It's full circle. That's like a style in and of itself now. Yeah. And my least favorite thing, even Mario Maker does this, but my least favorite thing is when a 2D pixel art aspiring game has like the sprites that rotate, and then you can see the square pixels are rotating with it. Hate that.
Right.
Hate that. It's so fake. It looks bad and dumb.
Bad and dumb and awful.
But even Mario Maker does it, and it's like, what? Where does the buck stop? You know, Oof. Who do I blame for this? Who do I call? Reggie, you could have stopped this, but you had to die.
Oh, rip in peace.
Reggie in peace.
In Reggie. Wait, don't rip in Reggie. Oh, that's awful, guys. This has been the Console Crusade podcast. We've been chatting for about an hour. I'm not editing this episode. I'm literally doing, like, you're going to hear the sniffs. You're going to hear the keyboard clicks. You're going to hear the crosstalk. You're going to hear me smacking my lips. It's all there. You guys asked for it. Nick, this is for you, man. It's going down like this.
I believe you. I trust you.
Whether you want it or not. If you wanted to,
you could do the little truncate silence thing, that little trick. I don't know if there's any silence in our conversation here that's longer than like a full second, like a full beat. But you could always do that.
Yeah, it's nothing. I don't know. I'm so anal retentive and obsessive compulsive and wanting to make sure everything is like, I don't want the crosstalk. I don't want the pauses. I want it to be a seamless flowing conversation. That's really hard to do when you're unprepared and on the other line of a Discord call. You know?
Yeah, and we're both bad at talking. Well, you're better at talking than I am. I kind of wander. I don't know what I'm going to say next.
If I'm being honest, I have to edit you a lot less than I have to edit me. Because
is that because you have more to edit, or because you're more hard on yourself?
No, because I mean that's a valid question. No, it's like in our early days, I had to edit you a lot because I think there was some confidence maybe you were searching for when we first started doing this, and so there would be some stumbling or some trying to figure out, and so there's some rearranging, but you are a lot more confident now and a lot more just like this is how it'd be, and I'm telling you. And so,
well, thank you for saying so. Whenever I listen back to our podcast, I think, man, EJ's making much more salient points than I am. I'm just kind of talking in circles and not saying anything.
No. See, I feel the opposite. That's how I feel about me. I'm like, why is Nick so much smarter than me?
Well, enough nasal gazing. Want me to give us our plugs? Give out the plugs.
Nick, where can they find us?
I was gonna say you can email us, but I wanted to check our email just to make sure that we haven't gotten anything. I think the only thing we've gotten is Simplecast is upgrading to a different system, so they're like, you can transfer over your stuff eventually once the icon's on your dashboard or whatever.
I don't like scary.
A little bit of a look behind the scenes on our hosting situation. But yeah, you can go ahead and email us at consolecrusade. What is our email? Feedback at consolecrusade.com. Yeah, that's our website also if you want to go there, listen on your phones or on your computers, all that kind of stuff. We're also on iTunes and Spotify, wherever you can find podcasts. You can follow EJ at eJiggle on Twitter. You can also follow me at PreshTillDeath. We have a Twitter account that we hardly ever use. We should probably start using that, maybe interacting with the bigger podcast, get our name visible. But you can follow us at console_crusade because some motherfucker has the real Console Crusade, and we have to wait for their account to be deleted because it's currently like suspended.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's the whole thing.
It's an ordeal, Nick.
Truly.
Oh man. Boom, you heard it. Console Crusade. We'll be back. I was really pretty bummed to miss last week. I had Leaf lined up so we wouldn't miss an episode, and you're like, oh, we can record, and then like we didn't record, so I canceled on Leaf, but then we didn't record, and so we missed a week, and I was really hoping to get 52 episodes this year, but maybe we'll do a makeup episode. We'll throw at you. We'll see. I'm still gunning for 52 this year.
We could always do 2 for E3. We always talk way too much from E3.
That's true. We'll see what happens. We'll see. We got to start banking some episodes. My schedule's about to get nuts. I don't have a day off after Sunday. This last Sunday, I won't have another day off until like the 6th of April, I think.
Jeez. I mean, besides your little siesta you're taking the end of this month, right?
Yeah, I've got the beach trip, but the thing about the beach trip is that I have a music video going on with an artist.
So it's a work trip.
So there's an artist that used to live in my town who recently moved to the Bay Area, and she's driving up, and that's the only weekend. So we are currently trying to coordinate how we're going to shoot the performance aspect of this music video while I am on vacation, because I am not driving back from the beach. So it's either she's coming to me on her way up from the Bay, or we are meeting up. Like, I'll cut my trip just a little bit short on that Sunday. so anyway, so we'll see how that plays out. But pretty much every weekend, the next several weekends, then after, I'm traveling and working and, so.
You're a busy little boy.
Yeah, but we'll see what happens.
I've got my own stuff, with my moving and everything, but yeah, we both got a lot of stuff going on. I want to at least stay weekly. It was a bummer missing last week, and I didn't want to miss this week either, even though I had to deal with Frontier drilling holes in my house yesterday and all that kind of crap. But
the bastards.
Yeah.
I got home from a shoot Saturday, and my whole backyard was missing the fence.
Huh.
The whole fence was gone, and I said,
"Oh, where'd it go?"
Nobody's there. Just the fence is gone. I come home yesterday, and there are a couple of gentlemen who did not speak any English in my backyard building a fence, and I was like, my landlord couldn't give me even a text. It's like, hey, we're coming in to destroy your backyard. They're going to be sitting in your lawn furniture and wreaking havoc. I'm like, okay, there's some strange men, and okay. Hola.
I love communication with landlords. It's always fun.
My landlord's been pretty chill mostly so far. So
my last landlord was doing maintenance on the roof and decided to literally sever the cable that was bringing me internet to my house.
I remember that.
So I had no internet, and it was very funny because serendipitously, my phone had also kicked the bucket during that time period. So I had zero contact from the outside world.
Dude,
for like a week.
The dark ages, man. So there's something.
Okay, so your phone dies and then your internet goes out. How do you get your internet back?
You got to go to the goddamn library.
You're like, I have to buy a phone. Well, let's just spend money on a phone. You don't have an upgrade. What do? Phone's not under warranty. You don't have insurance on it. You're just like, well, okay, so I have to spend $500 to get my internet back. Like,
just as a total aside here, I got into it with a friend of ours about homeless people.
Okay.
And well, oh my God, I'm okay. Ooh, I gotta get going. But we got into this whole conversation about homeless people, and I said, the older I get and the more responsibility I take on financially and otherwise, I realize how easy it is to become homeless. Like, if you lose your job, if you get ill and have all this debt, and you don't have a network of family and friends, if you just lose your job and your fucking phone takes your shit, next thing you know, there's no recourse. You're just done. And it's, you can work, and so just like that, you could find yourself oh, well, I got evicted, and where the hell do I go? I literally don't have an option. I got to drain my savings, stay in a hotel, and hope for the best. And next thing, and so I don't know. It's just an interesting thing to think about, that if, we're fortunate to have a network of good people, and,
Hashtag blessed.
My point was just that, not all homeless people are just lazy drug addicts. Sometimes shit happens and people are trying to fix their shit. I went to college with a few people, homeless students, who spent all their time at the college trying to fucking get their goddamn degree so they could not be homeless. So I don't know. Interesting thing about living in the dark ages there. But Cons Crusade, find us online.
The social construct crusade. Quick aside. Talking about, safety nets and that kind of stuff. You're going to be inheriting my old bed frame at your parents' place.
Oh my goodness!
You're not going to be sleeping on a mattress on the ground. There you go.
That's super funny. That's hilarious. Is that bed frame the one that came with the bed, which was Sarah's old bed 10 years ago?
No, it's the one that I bought. I looked into my Amazon order history at beds from 2014. And also I had to buy more hardware because during the disassembly of it, I lost some pieces.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a little bit difficult not difficult. It'll be a little bit harder to put together than it would normally because the pieces I ordered aren't exactly tailor made for the item. It's those barrel screws that you put into the little hole and then you cut the bolt that goes through it.
I'll let them figure that out. Not my problem.
Just saying that you might have that problem.
I gotta fuck with it. Anyway, find us. Count me down.